Good.
All right. So, dear all, I would like to really warmly welcome you at our event of 3 days focused on literature and visual art. I'm really glad to see some familiar faces on the screen. We will record this session also, so many other students and colleagues will have the opportunity to see Professor's presentation now, but also all presentations during these coming days. I'm really glad that the program that we could have seen is so very full and rich and colorful indeed, in terms of the topics that will be explored, in terms of the literary works that will be analyzed, but also in a way how various other ways through which scholars and presenters will focus on a combination of visual art and literature. Some workshops will be only held in person at our university, but most of the sessions will be online and will be recorded. This event is meant to be an open platform for discussion. So after each presentation, there will be opportunity to ask presenters questions. And what I should definitely mention is to give thanks to a colleague of mine, Dr. Juričková, who organized everything and who did really great work in creating the program and putting together this very, very nice group of presenters. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Maria Hrycková. I'm a deputy head of the Department of English and American Studies of Constantine the Philosopher University in Nitra, Slovakia. And I would like to thank again to a colleague of mine for giving us all this great opportunity to listen to very insightful and interesting topics. So now I would like to ask Martina to say a few words, because she has some important information to share definitely, and then she will also be a host of this session. Martina, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I'm really grateful for this opportunity that I was able to organize it. And of course, I'm really grateful for everyone who sent in their submissions because, yeah, maybe this wasn't mentioned before. It was organized, so to say, for the last minute, and we almost didn't organize it at all. But then a lot of ideas came in. And eventually, thanks to these ideas, a lot of presenters proposed their presentations. So we are happy that we have almost 20 people presenting over these 3 days. As for some practical information, as for the organization of the sessions, we had to adjust them to our teaching sessions at the university, so that we have teachers available for particular sessions, and that's basically how the breaks in the schedule were decided. So today we are going to start with Professor Salah Bouregbi from the Department of Letters and English Language, Badji Mokhtar University in Annaba, Algeria. So we can start. Professor Salah, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. The share screen, I don't have it. Okay. So, because I have some PowerPoints to.
I think you can share the screen now. Can you try it now?
Okay, yes, yeah, now it's okay. Yes. But where?
Okay, we can see your screen now.
I have a problem in this case. I have. Because I have a PowerPoint to use.
Good, that's good.
Is it okay?
Yes, of course.
You have the PowerPoint?
Yeah, multiple presenters.
Okay, okay. So good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I will thank all the participants and mainly the organizers of this colloquium, mainly Maria Hrikova and Martina Jurikova of the University of Nitra, Slovakia. Hello, everybody. So I am from University of Annaba. Where I have a problem. Okay. Department of Letters and English Language, Faculty of Letters and Languages, Badji Mokhtar University, Annaba, the one-day Hippo, the city of St. Augustine. So my name is Salah Bouregbi, and my paper is image making and the matter of representation in Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, between vision and design. This is the plan. Introduction, then number one, emphatic representation in art between vision versus design, vision and design. Number two, Woolf and the aesthetic representation between empathy and sympathy. And number three, To the Lighthouse, aestheticization of life, creating a whole is creating art, and then conclusion. So the introduction. Life makes art, and art makes life. It means that art, life with capital L is life we live in, that we try to understand, but we fail to understand what is it. But yet we have some fragments of life. What is art? Art is, in a way, makes a whole of these fragments. By making a whole from these fragments, we make life. Life as a representation of what you see, what it is, because life we live in has some fragmentations, and life makes a whole. And making a whole means having a kind of perception of a life or lives. In other words, a painter paints with words, with colors, and the artist paints with words. And so painting or using words is recreating life within this life, a world within this world. World, if you see a world, we have within this world, we have word and we have Lord. So the artist is the Lord of the word of the world. In other words, we recreate life from life we live in. This is, in fact, what I would like to develop within this modest work. So empathy, empathetic representation means the relationship between the person or the individual and his surrounding is empathetic. In other words, it is a reaction of what you see and the way to conceive what you see and to represent it, to make a design, to make a structure of it. So artistic production involves the experience of perceiving an external object or event while simultaneously undergoing an interior corporeal response to that externality. What is reality? It is my reaction to the external world, to my environment. And so it is not the commonness of what we see and what we, but it is rather, let's say, a reaction to it. And so, and this reaction, what Virginia Woolf calls sensibility, it is the way to look at the common. For the artist, what is common is uncommon, because he knows what it is. And so he tries to represent its uncommonness in a way through art or through images. Okay. So Woolf and aesthetic representation. For Woolf, when I write, I am no longer Virgin about a sensibility. In other words, an artist writes with his other self, because when we say myself, which self we are speaking about? There are many selves. At least according to Paul de Man, we have the self that reads, the self that writes, the self that judges, and the self that reads itself. And so which self that writes, which self that looks at the external world and represents it within art. So she is not Woolf, she is not Virginia, but a sensibility. And so this sensibility is your reaction to the external world, to your external environment. According to Woolf, this sensibility is a combination of thought, sensation, and the voice of the sea. And so thoughts and the sensation, which is a mixture of feeling and thought, and the voice of the sea means this kind of imagination. The voice of the sea means just looking at the world with another eye, looking at the world with another feeling. In other words, a sensibility is beyond one's body. It is something that we cannot master, yet it does exist within us. Woolf develops visual aesthetics in which the empathetic perceptual self consisting of the eye, memory, and the external world. So we have the eye and memory and the external world. And so the way to look at it is dialogically related to your reaction to it. In other words, we have sense, sensation, and sensibility. What is a sense? Is all what is common, all what we know, either through one's tradition, through one's culture, or in life. Sensibility, sensation is your reaction to what you see, and sensibility is your own judgment, your own feeling towards what you see. It could be like the sense of your society, like the sense of your dictionary, like the sense of life itself, but at the same time, it could be very different. More than this, there is a common agreement that in life, there are two elements. The one is the fact, the other one is the symbol. Everything is a fact, and every fact is a symbol. And so the common people look at reality as a fact, but the artist looks at it as a symbol. A tree is a tree, but a tree is the symbol of the tribe. The commonness in a way of the family that belong to the same tribe. The sun is a sun, but it could symbolize something else in psychology and so on. And so this is what in a way the artist is in a way supposed to take into consideration. Okay. The work of art must create through form its own term of truth. Yes, truth. What is it first? Where do we find it? How can we find it? Is truth what it is or what it's supposed to be? Is it the common or what we conceive as truth? Is the truth of art a truth in art or outside of it? So the form creates life. The form creates truth. In other words, what is a form? A form is a shape of an idea. It is the idea that gives shape to the form, not the opposite as in the traditional novel. There is a plot structure and you have to follow. We have the beginning, the rise of action, the of action, and the denouement, which must be happy. Whereas in the modern age, we have the idea and the form follows it, because the aim of the artist is to express an idea in a very free way, without any constraint. And so the form should should be related to the idea rather than the opposite. In other words, the form explains the idea. Think of Virginia Woolf. The form is somehow absent, I mean the plot, because thoughts and actions do happen within the minds of her characters rather than in action. We have the de-emphasized plot, the plotless plot, and more than this, she looks more at the suggestiveness of language. Language is not what the word is not what it is, but it is what is supposed to be according to the artist. Woolf cells respond in a particular way that they remain hidden into the class of images and symbols. The object becomes an image of self as well as its own extension. Yes, the self, as I said, the selves. There are many selves within us. We have the I and the other. Within oneself, there is otherness. With me and the other, there is otherness. And then for Woolf, she does not emphasize more on actions and on description of her characters, but rather on the selves, on the insights, and she describes more the external, because what is in the external? It is the extension of the internal. This is the idea of, that is why we see Woolf as a mystic writer, because mysticism is the extraction of the soul, is the transmutation, is living within the other, living one's body. The body imprisons us. The body is the sinner. And so we liberate oneself, where within the class of images and symbols. When you decode an image, when you decode a symbol, you find somewhere the soul of Virginia Woolf, mainly into the lighthouse. This light of the lighthouse is Mrs. Ramsey herself. Because in her letter, she said, if you sell our bodies, you can never sell our minds. So the bodies are theirs, but the minds are hers. In other words, then the transmutation or living within images is a kind of symbolism. And if, is a kind of mysticism. If you know the mystics, Jalaluddin al-Rumi, Ibn al-Arabi, and so on, they think of trees and forests and so on as the representation of one's self. We are somewhere within these images, because in mysticism, and we have the turners that turn around. These turners, in fact, is a kind of path to go to reach light. We have two, we have four, so we have two, we have with, we have within and from. To the lighthouse, to the lighthouse. Okay, then with the lighthouse, and then within the lighthouse, and then from the lighthouse. These elements, we find them mainly into the lighthouse. We will see, of course, later on when we reach the novel. Another element, for those who are diseased, who are ill, in a way, they have a special perception of life. They look at life differently. Woolf said, I am in bed with influenza, but what does that convey of the great experience? How the world has changed its shape. The whole landscape of life lies remote and fair, like the shore seen from a ship far out at sea. In other words, for Virginia Woolf, the one who knows better what life is the one who is condemned, is the one who is mad, is the one who is diseased. She said in some of her letters, let, in a way, the diseased express himself, and the language of Shakespeare will be unable to have it. And so this idea of sensibility of the diseased person is very high, because of his, let's say, diseased in a way body, and he knows, or she knows, that death is of no escape and so on, and so she looks at life with a different eye. Woolf, we said we are under the, yes, Woolf also is influenced by some, in a way, painters like Cézanne, Matisse, Derain, and Picasso, and so on, because she attended the exhibition of 1910, And she said in this quote that we are under the dominion of painting, where all modern painting to be destroyed. A critic of the 20th century would be able to deduce from the works of Proust alone the existence of Matisse, Cézanne, Derain, and Picasso. He would be able to say with those books before him that painters of the highest originality and power must be covering canvas after canvas, squeezing tube after tube in room next door. In other words, it means modernists have been influenced by painting, mainly Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. And she said here, if we don't have these paintings, we just, via Proust, we can revive them. This is the impact of painting and the way to look and at life are represented in such a painting. And as I told you, so we paint with words more than colors. And such painting also, we find it within To the Lighthouse. Yes, To the Lighthouse, when Mrs. Ramsey around the table and there is a dish of fruit. Anyway, men are trying to buy some fruits, whereas she is looking at such a basket and she is in a way affected. She said, felt no more until, okay, what a pity that they should do it. A hand reached out, took a pear and spoiled the whole thing. The whole thing of the basket in a way forms a unity, and Mr. Ramsey has taken an apple that he has destroyed such unity. This shows first women know better in a way what a painting is rather than men, and this is a criticism because according to some men critics, women can't paint, women can't write. Second, in a way, eating apple has appetite, and so it is associated with sexuality and so on. And this is what Mrs. Woolf or Mrs. Ramsey resents. So she looks at an apple as an art, but not as a means of appetite. Woolf, such moments, yes, constitute a reality. It is irrational, if not stand. It will not stand argument that we are sealed vessels afloat upon what is convenient to call reality. At some moments, without reason, without effort, the sealing matter cracks, inflates reality. According to Woolf, reality is not what it is, but it is a mode of perception. It is a way to look at it. In other words, there are so many realities, and it depends on the way you look at it. And so it is irrational. Reality is irrational. It will not stand an argument. It has no argument. It's like somehow time. What is time? So it is better, don't tell me what time is, but rather tell me what time is not. This is the idea of St. Augustine, of Hippo. He said that time can never be defined. Time can never be measured. We measure moments of time, we measure events of time, but not time itself. But we cannot define it, yet we live within it. And so sometimes we find some inability to define things, mainly reality, but we try to understand it through one's perception. It means we receive something from the external world, we try to conceive it and to give it our own color, our own meaning to it. Into the Lighthouse, okay, what Woolf demonstrates in the figure of Blisco is that the artist who creates wholes creates art. So life is full of fragments. So we take these fragments from life and we harmonize them, and through this harmony we make life. And so life we make is life we want, life we perceive from the fragments of reality, because we can never in a way create life from nothing. And so we take one's life, one's experience, and we make a harmony. Though through her art, Lily expressed her desire to bring everything together and impose a sense of order on an otherwise chaotic existence. She hated playing a painting. A brush, the one dependable thing in the world of strife, ruin, KO, that one would not play with. So painting is the key. If you want Virginia Woolf into the Lighthouse, has two painters. One, Mrs. Ramsey, who has no birth name, and the other one is Lily Briscoe, who has a full name. The one who has no birth name, we find her sitting near her window, looking at the lighthouse. And also, Lily Briscoe is looking at the lighthouse too. At the beginning, Lily Briscoe failed to paint Mrs. Ramsey. But at the end, when she died, when she becomes a soul, a light she looks at, then she succeeds. And so there are two, in a way, paintings. One, the first one in the window, a painting where patriarchal was dominating, and the second one, a painting where Lily Briscoe, who has a full name, is dominating her own art, because the canvas is a kind of frontier between her as a painter and the other men who fail to understand her because she knows better what life is than them. It's a kind of criticism to women can't paint, women can't write. Okay. Lily picture and indeed Woolf to the lighthouse. Okay, she looked at her picture. That would have been an answer presumably that you, I, and she pass and vanish. Nothing stays. All changes, but no words, not pain. Not paint. Not it's a mistake. Not paint. It means the body goes. You, I, she, and so on. But what remains is a word, because the word creates the world. So many writers have gone away, but through our reading of the work of art, we recreate them. Joyce says in one of his books, so I am everywhere and see nowhere in my work. Just read me, you find me within my work. Life art and pictorial art are part of the same continuum. Really resolves her own fragmentation. No longer is she curiously divided, as in part one, in one part of her were drawn out there, and the other had fixed itself solidly here on the lawn. It means we are body and soul, and so the artist is a soul without body. It means liberating oneself, and then trying to then you can write. But when you are inside your body, you cannot, because the body is the prisoner of the soul. This is, of course, very Christian. Lily's act of painting, we have poses, strokes, and movement. These three elements, we find them also with writers. Okay, and so we have here the quote: with a curious physical sensation, as if she were urged forward and at the same time must hold herself back, she made her first decisive stroke. Number one, stroke. The brush descended. It flickered down brown over the white canvas. It left a running mark a second time. She did a third time. As you see, that we have three strokes, and three strokes are related to the strokes of the light of the lighthouse when Mrs. Ramsey near the window is expecting them to come. So this number three is in a way repeating itself, which is a kind of analogy between art and Christianity, the Christian world and the artistic world. So because in the third stroke, we find Mrs. Ramsey saying that we are in the hands of the Lord. And so it means to lose oneself. And as I said, to the lighthouse means to, in mysticism, to means preparing oneself to be with the light, and within, to be within the lighthouse means to forget your body. But what is the different from to the lighthouse and mysticism is that the fourth path is missing. The fourth path from the lighthouse is absent. It means then here we have the idea that Mrs. Ramsey, in a way, she was to go to the lighthouse. She was with the lighthouse, and she was within the lighthouse, and she does not come back because we find her in a way dead in the third chapter. And as you see, even the novel itself, it has 3 chapters. The title, To the Lighthouse, 3 strokes, and so on. So number 3 is repeating. And what is very also particular is chapter 2 of To the Lighthouse is very short. 10 years in a way are shortened into around 10 pages. And we have the use of parentheses. It means we are nothing. And the chapter 2 itself is between parentheses, because we have chapter 1 and chapter 3. Okay, Mrs. Ramsey, her identification with the 3rd stroke of the lighthouse makes her eliminate the core of darkness and symbolically the self within the core. So there is, there she looked out to meet that stroke of lighthouse, the long, steady stroke that last of the 3, which was her stroke. For watching them in this mood always at this hour, one could not help attacking oneself to one thing, especially the things we saw. So she looks at the lighthouse till she becomes the lighthouse itself. And this thing, the long steady stroke, was her stroke. It will end. It will end, she said. It will come. When she suddenly added, we are in the hands of the Lord. It means we have, it means she has become a soul without body. So it means that the transmutation, it means the soul and the light have become one. Which means here she is, it's the symbol is that she wants to escape her body, who is culture-bound, defined by society, defined by Mr. Ramsey. Even the word Ramsey, Ram means the scapegoat, the ram, the scapegoat, and so on, a sheep, and so on. And so the way to escape is through this symbol. Okay, Mrs. Ramsey, she praised herself in praising the light without vanity, for she was stern, she was searching, she was beautiful like that light. It was odd, she thought, for one was alone, one leaned to things, inanimate things, trees, streams, flowers, felt they expressed one, felt they became one, felt they knew one, in a sense were one, felt an irrational tenderness. Thus, she looked at that long, steady light as for oneself. This, the transmutation, the identification. It means then, okay, you want my body, you get it. And this idea, we have it with in Mrs. Dalloway about Septimus. I'll give it you. He said, I'll give, and he threw himself through the window. I'll give it you, because then he remains a soul without body. In conclusion, Woolf gives to reality a mystic dimension, not an illusion, but another reality, not imitation, but equivalence. The work of art must create through form its own terms of truth. Woolf relates modernism in the arts to the emotional, social, and intellectual climate of the 1910s. The need for the creation of a new reality, not through photographic representation, but through necessitated form, is a need created by the conditions of existence. Images she uses and symbols she adopted are from the external world, but nonetheless represent the internal response of her characters. All their passions and emotions revealed for us through images come from the depth of the self. The selves respond in a peculiar way so that they remain hidden into the cluster of images. This is what I can say. Thank you very much. And I'm expecting to get some debate with you. Thanks a lot. And congrats. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Yes, so now is the time for some discussions or questions with other participants. Do you have any? You can either write them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and just ask right away. can start with something. I don't really have like a definite question, but the ideas that you presented in your presentation made me think of many other aspects of literary works which I'm teaching this semester, such as, of course, you were talking about the basic principles of aestheticism, how life imitates art, art imitates life. And you mentioned the idea that in the novel, in Virginia Woolf's novel, the character is painting a picture and she's thinking that basically everything changes except for the picture. And this made me think about Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, where he subverts this idea and the picture ages instead of the character and the person. Do you see any other maybe connections between Virginia Woolf's work and Oscar Wilde's work and their understanding of aestheticism?
Yes, yes. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, yes. Of course, Oscar Wilde was fascinated by aestheticism or hedonism or aestheticism, and he was influenced by Walter Pater, and he adopted what you call art for art's sake. But I think rather Virginia Woolf deals with art for life's sake. Art for life's sake. Yes, Oscar Wilde is in a way thinks that painting in a way is in a way the body decomposes and goes away, whereas painting remains. But for Virginia Woolf, it is in a way she has fused, if you want, hedonism with life. It means, what's the use of having art without having life? It means, in other words, it is art for life's sake. Art for life's sake. This is the idea of Virginia Woolf, because in a way she transcends reality. As you see in all her novels, there is no conflict. There is no challenge. There is no idea of clash between men and women. It does not exist. It does not exist at all. Into the Lighthouse, even her husband. There is, okay, she is Mrs. Ramsay, yet she is not. In a way, even around the table, he is at one side and she is at the other. And he is eating, but she is looking at the basket in a way of fruit, and so she is absent-minded. This absent-mindedness makes her in a way a Madonna-like person, a Madonna, yes, a Madonna who looks after her children, but she forgets about herself. There is no idea of love, no real sexuality except with Paul and Martha and so on. So this is, in a way, she transcends the earthly love, because the earthly love is sensation, and sensation and sensation goes, whereas the sensation of art is everlasting. It does not die. This is, I think, what she is about to tell us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like you mentioned that the art is everlasting. That's exactly what I thought as you were talking about that basically the picture or even literary work, because when it's created, it's immovable. It's just one moment of a time, so to say, conserved for eternity. So it doesn't change. It stays everlasting until.
Look, Virginia Woolf, in what we call the Bloomsbury group, with Catherine Mansfield, D.H. Lawrence, and to some extent James Joyce. They think of in a way the transmutation of the soul. For example, for James Joyce, chapter 5 is about art. So according to them, there are five types of there are five types of sensation. The appetite of a child, then we have that of the teenage, that of adolescence, and that of marriage. According to him, that of marriage does not last. And then, according to him, any earthly in the earthly sensation does not last. And then she has used the third chapter as it is also art for life's sake. So also, in a way, if you read any piece of art, it means you are giving life to the artist himself. We have an Algerian writer, Katib Yassine. He said, j'écris donc j'y suis. I write, therefore I do exist. So if you read me, you find me. You give me life. Because when we circulate with words, we give blood to the author, and then we give him life inside his world. And as I told you, the artist creates a world within this world. With the word, he makes his own world. That is why I said there are many lives inside the work. And furthermore, the reader should not be neglected when negotiating a text. A reader makes life to the artist. A reader makes life to a text. The text is what the reader makes it. And so, does the text, anyway, does the word, does the life the reader give, is the life of the artist or another life that he conceives through his reading? This is another problem. So, because reading is creating a text within the text, and it does not mean that this is what really Virginia Woolf means or Joyce means, but probably this is what the reader means, because the text is a mirror. But you look at it. But when you look at it, you look at yourself through it, but not at the author himself. And so you are reading yourself through the mirror, through the text. And so this is also, and it means we have many readers, and the same mirror. And so we have different lives, different truths, and different realities.
May I have a question?
Yes, please.
And a remark. First of all, thank you a lot for this insightful presentation. I really like the way how you combine biographical material related to Virginia Woolf with your reading of her novel. And of course, also the connections with mystical writings and references or describing her writing as a sort of being part of mystical tradition. My question will be very practical. Now, for me as a teacher of English literature, Virginia Woolf and James Joyce are maybe the most challenging authors for students to read. My question is, do you teach Woolf to your students? And if you do, what are their responses to her texts? Okay,
yes, that's right. And thank you for this question, which is really very important, interesting. Yes, I'm a teacher of a master degree at our university. And we have a third year license. We have also degree of license. Third year, we used to teach them James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. But now in the master degree, we teach them Virginia Woolf as a modern and William Golding as a postmodern. And with Virginia Woolf, we select each year, we select a novel. For example, this year we did with To the Lighthouse. To the Lighthouse. I'm fascinated with this To the Lighthouse. Also, we used to teach Mrs. Dalloway The Waves, which is the most complicated for me, The Waves. So it's really the waves beyond reality. The waves, it means ideas. Ideas, waves means it. You know, Woolf is very symbolic. Though she said in one of her letters, I was very jealous of Catherine Mansfield. She was jealous of her. She taught me how to write. This Catherine Mansfield, who a critic said she was truthful to the point of untruthfulness, but she died too young. She's in a way, you just read At the Bay and read the waves. You see the great similarity. she has taken some passages from the Catherine Mansfield to put it. Read the Garden Party and Mrs. Dalloway, they are the same. So, but what is very different is that Virginia Woolf, in a way, wrote through psychological mind, whereas Catherine Mansfield wrote through very impressionistic mind. She looks, in a way, she is, as you know, she was condemned by tuberculosis and so on, and so she looks at life differently. She said, "Oh God, why do we live since we are to die?" She looks at a leaf when she falls down, very yellow. She said, "Oh God, why? Why then it was green, then yellow, then it wastes away," and so on. And she said, "How happy to die, but within very happy circumstances, not isolated." Because she died she's from New Zealand, and she wrote in a way short stories in England, but she died in France, far from her home, and so on. So, what shall I say? I think that the real artists, for those I think who wrote through their own psychic wounds, through their own wounds, I think when Virginia Woolf or Catherine Mansfield, in a way, wrote, there is something of theirs inside. There must be something. But for us as readers, it is so difficult to reach them because, as I told you, the one is condemned looks far further and deeper than us. We try to look, we try to know, but we cannot, because the rule says whatever we say, there must be something that we can never understand in a piece of art. It's its own innate, in a way, core of, in a way, the work. But Virginia Woolf is very skilled. What shall I say? What I found, there is no clash between men and women, no clash. We only, they contact one another with thoughts. For example, into the Lighthouse, do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Into the Lighthouse, we have Mr. Ramsey. He was going to and fro and said, "If only she told me, I love you." She has understood within herself that I think he must think about something, and there must be in a way love. He knows that I love him. I can never say this in front of him, and so on. So they love one another, yet they never meet. In a way, Mrs. Ramsey is very particular. Of course, she is in a way the mother, if you want, of Virginia Woolf, because she said, if I don't kill her in my work, she will kill me. This is because she suffered a lot in front of her father and so on. She spent days outside, nights outside her home and so on, and she was present at the time. And that is why she got such in a way breaking down and so on. And you know that first of all, she is anonymous. Second, she preserves patriarchy without knowing, Mrs. Ramsey. Whereas Lily Brescoe is somehow Virginia Woolf, the liberated woman through painting. Whereas the other one is the mother that preserves patriarchy, the mother that serves them. She wants to be herself. She wrote in which she wants to be herself, but she did not get the moment. We find her all the time near the window looking at the lighthouse, which means what is the window? Is the frontier. At the back is the home, and up there we have the lighthouse. So the window is the frontier between patriarchy and the freedom. And but what is also peculiar with Mrs. Ramsey is that she pushes boys to marry. You want to preserve yourselves, you must marry to protect yourself, protection. She is too submissive, and I think that submissiveness is a kind of success, in the sense that when you are too submissive to your husband, you enslave your husband. He becomes dependent to you. Probably this is what she's in a way trying to show for us. She is also an artist. Mrs. Robert is an artist. When she dies, everything collapses. She's the center of the home. And Virginia Woolf does not describe her, but she is described by her surrounding. So this is a kind of lighthouse of the Ramsey family. Okay. So as I told you, we teach Virginia Woolf, and we deal also with William Golding in poetry. And the second year of master degree, we have contemporary British drama. We did with George Bernard Shaw and Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot. Wow.
Thank you a lot for your response.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Salah. So now we will have about 8-minute break, and then we'll continue with second presentation, which is mine talking college.
Thanks a lot. Wish you good luck.
Thank you.